Well, we know it's kind of far away from fantasy football, but it's always fun to talk about it. And I got so excited whenever we were doing this, and this is our early 2017 fantasy football top 10. Note, there's a lot that can happen between now and the season, so a lot of this can change. It is March, but man, it's fun to talk about. But first,
so what's a good thing to do on the off season? Hone your skills for fantasy football. You can check out our app. It's mainly geared towards beginner and intermediate, but we've had some experts read it. They said they picked up a few tips here and there. You can click on the link in the description or click right down here. We'll have a button where you can take you to get it. You can get it on the iPad. You can get it on the Kindle and all that stuff. And we're working on it this off season where you can download it as a PDF if you don't have any of that stuff. So it'll be available for anyone. And then these rankings, just keep in mind, we do take into account about a 0.5 PPR, so we do give a little bit of boost in the PPR, and our number one guy, Mr. Namecode,
is David Johnson. This guy is so sick, and I love him. He's on my teams. He's great. And that says how much I love this guy. The thing about David Johnson last year, sure, he had 20 total touchdowns, which is absolutely amazing. Sure, he had 2,000 total rushing yards. But the thing that I really love about him, whether it's PPR or not, he had 80 catches. There's no reason that this is going to stop. He's going to keep rushing the ball. He is the total focal point of that offense. Everybody knew it last year, and they still couldn't stop him. They're not going to be able to stop him in 2017 either. Our number one overall player.
He just makes it look easy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
He literally just makes it look
And the
easy.
blow-up potential for him, he's so fun.
The other guy that makes it look really easy is Le'Veon Bell. I mean, in 12 games last year, 75 catches. I mean, that's ridiculous. He averaged over 106 rushing yards per game, 9 total touchdowns, 1,900 total yards. I mean, the Steelers do have more of a balanced offense last year than the Cardinals did in terms of just, they still have a passing game and all that stuff. But Bell's still very much involved, going to be from here on out, obviously, until as long as he's healthy. The only thing with him is he's just one more drug charge away from, I think it would be a year at this point. I mean, he only played 12 games last year because of the suspension, and he hasn't learned his lesson. So that's the only scare, but it seems to be off season when he does it. So as long as you can get him to week 1, you'll probably have him. You can probably not have to worry about the drug charges. But
all right, our top 3 picks. We've gone running back, and we're going with another one, Ezekiel Elliott. Obviously, he came on, and it was ridiculous last year. He lived up to all of the hype that the Cowboys and everybody else was giving him. He had almost 2,000 total yards, 16 touchdowns. And the one thing that I really wanted to look at with him is how was his yards per catch in the second half of the season. It went up by 10. He had a few more catches, but they started getting him a little bit more involved in the pass game once he could pick up a lot more of the blocks and the schemes with that. So future looks bright there in Dallas with their stud quarterback and their stud running back. Thing about Elliott's a little bit scary. He did hit 322 rushing attempts. Typically that number, if you cross the 300, then you're going to get injured the next year. I don't know how much I subscribe to that, but he did touch the ball quite a bit and took a beating in his first NFL season.
Yeah, there is something to it, but he's young enough.
Right.
He's young enough. Antonio Brown, another Steeler. When you're looking at your first round pick, you want to think safe. And in terms of the wide receiver position in Antonio Brown, it doesn't get much safer. I mean, when you look at the last 4 seasons, he's had over 100 catches each year. He's had over 1,200 yards each year, and he's averaging 10 touchdowns. I mean, there's no reason to believe that he's not going to keep doing that. I mean, the guy's just too good, and that's why we got him at number 4. I mean, it's a hefty price tag, but he's about as safe as they get at receiver.
Number 5, we got Odell Beckham, and the thing about Beckham that you're going to like, he's also very consistent. So before I start talking about that, the one thing, 169 targets last year, which is fantastic. He had 101 of those turned into catches. He had about 1,367 yards and 10 touchdowns. But the thing about him, when you look at his game log that I really like, of course there's 1 or 2 games where he had only a couple catches, didn't do much. Other than that, he's a very consistent point scorer for your team, and there was the occasional big blow-up games, which is what I went out of my first rounder. I want somebody that's going to be safe across the board almost every week. You're going to get those, a decent score, and then occasionally blow up and win a week for you. And that's exactly who Odell Beckham Jr. is.
Now our next guy, Mike Evans at number 6. He's a little scary. I mean, in terms of just, when you look at your typical first round pick, you do want it to be fairly safe, but you also want upside. And that's the thing with Mike Evans is I don't know if we've seen the ceiling of him yet. I mean, when you look back at 2015, he still had a solid year, but his touchdowns were way down. But he fixed that. in 2016. He had 12 touchdowns, 96 catches, 1,300 total yards. So it is a little scary that, because in 2015 he only had 3 touchdowns. So, that really killed his value and made him kind of a bust. But he rewarded his owners for this year. And again, it's just the upside. I think there's a chance he could even do better. And the double-digit touchdowns is obviously something that could happen every year for him.
So I know what you're thinking. You start talking about Mike Evans. You're like, wait a second, where's Julio Jones? Don't worry, here he is. So let me first talk about the good with Julio. First of all, he's only missed 3 games in the last 3 seasons. Everybody always thinks he's always injury prone, he has this and that. Sure, he's questionable every week, but he's only missed 3 games in the last 3 seasons. And the thing, though, why Evans kind of stepped over him and what makes him a little bit more nervous is Atlanta's running backs were so good that his targets went down almost 70 targets year over year last year. He only had, he had 129 last year, but still, that was down from 200 a season ago. And you got to remember, Shanahan's also gotten the Shanahan offense. They normally feature one receiver and feed him ball, feed him ball, feed him ball. So there's some question marks around him, but he is a first rounder because he is Julio. If he plays, you're looking at 100 yards per game, and you're looking about 6 to 10 touchdown potential as well. I mean, he's still a stud, don't get me wrong.
Number 8, we got LeSean McCoy. Going into last year, this is where all those receivers were going because there's so much uncertainty at running back. But heading into 2017, we got more confidence in some of these running backs where you can go back to, taking more running backs in the first couple rounds. LeSean McCoy, in only 15 games last year, 1,600 total yards, 14 total touchdowns. I am a little worried about Gillislee because I do think Gillislee's good. He could be a guy that could have value in the future. But if McCoy's healthy, he's the man. He's the focal point of that offense, and he proved that he's still got something left in the tank. So that's why he made our top 10.
Number 9, go with DeMarco Murray. What a year.
Another guy.
I mean, geez, like that, just another guy that wasn't, all those receivers are going over him. Then, oh, geez, I guess I'll take DeMarco. Well, it really worked out for you last year. He had almost 1,300 rushing yards, had 9 rushing touchdowns. But the thing about DeMarco Murray that I found very interesting when looking at the stats, in that Tennessee offense, he had 67 targets. That is the most of DeMarco's career. And if you're in a half-point or full-point PPR league, and normally people think of DeMarco as just a rusher, not a pass catcher, 67 targets is legit. So this guy has even more upside, and I know Henry's there. Henry will get more touches, but they have come out in the offseason time and time again. DeMarco is the man. DeMarco is the starter. We are going to ride DeMarco. So you got to believe him. And that line is super solid. So I like that even more for him.
He's just more well-rounded in terms of just overall talent than Henry right now in their careers. In the 10th spot, this was tough. We debated a lot. You got guys like Jordan Howard, A.J. Green, T.Y. Hilton, Melvin Gordon, those type of guys. You reach on a quarterback, but we said Freeman, Devonta Freeman with Atlanta. I mean, I know Tevin Coleman's out there. He's creeping in on his value.
And we love Coleman, don't get me wrong.
We love Coleman, but they both had value. Even with Coleman vulturing a lot of his work, Freeman had 1,500 total yards, 13 touchdowns, and 54 catches. And what's not to like? And he gives you first-round value even with Tevin healthy. If Tevin were to go down, you might have a top 5 guy on your hands all of a sudden. And he gives you first-round value even if Tevin's healthy. So that offense is just so high-powered. Freeman is going to have a good season. So it is something to be concerned about with Coleman, but it's still Freeman that is the guy to own out there.
If you're watching this video, you're itching for football like I am, like we are, like what we want. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that little bell to get notifications, make sure you leave any comments who you think should be in the top 10, because we will adjust these, I'm sure, 20,000 more times before the start of the season. But with that notification, we'll be shooting some additional football videos in the offseason. So get your Fantasy Smack Talk / Fantasy Football Fix.
And there was a lot of choices between 8 and 10, so let us know who you think should
Let us
be
know
there.
if you want us to do maybe round 2 or top 20 or top whatever
What
in this
off-season videos
offseason.
do
Yeah,
you-
what do you like? What do you want us to do? Put that in the comments.